Hello everyone. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you taking the time to join me today for another English listening practice session. Today we're going to work on a technique called shadowing. Shadowing is when you listen to English and repeat what you hear at the same time. This technique has amazing benefits for your English learning. It helps you improve your pronunciation, your listening comprehension, and your speaking fluency all at once. As we go through today's story, I encourage you to pause after each sentence and try to repeat it out loud. Don't worry about being perfect. The goal is to practice and improve gradually. Are you ready? Let's dive into the story.
My name is Luci Martinez. I am 28 years old. I work as a travel writer for online magazines and blogs. I have been documenting unusual destinations and hidden places around the world for the past 5 years. I thought I was just catching a regular flight to Miami until last Friday evening. I was supposed to interview a famous chef for my next article when something completely unexpected happened. Something that made me realize my whole life had been built on carefully hidden lies. I had been working late at my Chicago apartment when I got the assignment call. My editor wanted me to fly to Miami immediately to cover a food festival. She said the magazine would pay for express travel if I could catch the last flight of the day. I grabbed my laptop bag and rushed to the airport. But I made a terrible mistake. I live in a small studio apartment near downtown Chicago. I keep my passport ready at all times because I travel frequently for work. I have visited 43 countries in the last 5 years. I always carry the same blue backpack and the same worn leather journal. My life has always been about movement and discovery. I never stay anywhere long enough to form deep relationships. I tell myself I prefer it this way. Travel writing gives me freedom and purpose. But on Friday evening, my life of constant motion led me somewhere I was never supposed to go. I was rushing through traffic when I realized I had grabbed the wrong boarding pass from my desk. Instead of my Miami flight confirmation, I had picked up an old boarding pass from a trip I had planned but never taken. The destination was a small airport in northern Michigan. By the time I discovered my mistake, I was already at the wrong airport. The flight to Miami had already departed from Chicago O'Hare. I was standing in a tiny regional airport 3 hours north of the city. The airport was almost empty. Only one small plane sat on the runway outside. I walked to the information desk to ask about return flights to Chicago. The woman behind the counter looked at me strangely when I showed her my boarding pass. She asked me if I was sure I wanted to go to Clearwater Regional Airport. I had never heard of Clearwater Regional Airport before. The woman told me that only one flight per week went to Clearwater. She said most people only went there for very specific reasons. She asked me what my business was in Clearwater. I told her I had made a mistake. I explained that I was supposed to be flying to Miami for work. I asked her to help me book a flight back to Chicago. But something about her expression made me curious. The woman kept staring at my face. She asked me what my last name was. When I told her Martinez, she became very quiet. She excused herself and walked to a back office to make a phone call. I could hear her speaking quietly to someone, but I could not understand what she was saying. When she returned, she told me there were no flights back to Chicago until Monday morning. She offered me a voucher for a hotel room in the nearby town. She said I could explore the area while I waited for my return flight. Something in her voice suggested this was not a normal offer. I decided to accept the hotel voucher. I was curious about why she had reacted so strangely to my name. I wondered what kind of place Clearwater was and why people only went there for specific reasons. The shuttle driver who took me to the hotel was an older man with kind eyes. His name was Robert. During the 20-minute drive, he asked me several personal questions about my family and my work. Robert asked me if I had any siblings. When I told him I had a sister named Sofia who had disappeared 3 years ago, he became very interested. He asked me what Sofia looked like and whether we resembled each other. I told Robert that Sofia and I were identical twins. We had the same dark hair, the same brown eyes, and the same small birthmark on our left wrist. People had always confused us when we were children. Robert nodded as if he had expected this answer. He told me that Clearwater was a very small town. He said everyone knew everyone else's business. He suggested that I might find the local library interesting if I wanted to learn about the area's history. When we arrived at the hotel, Robert gave me his business card. He told me to call him if I needed transportation anywhere in town. He said he would be happy to show me around. The hotel was small but comfortable. It felt like a place where travelers came to disappear rather than to be found. I checked in using my credit card and went to my room on the second floor. From my window, I could see the main street of Clearwater. The town looked peaceful and ordinary. But something felt different about it. Something felt like it was hiding secrets. I decided to walk to the library before it closed. The Clearwater Public Library was housed in an old brick building near the center of town. The librarian was a woman about my age with short red hair and intelligent eyes. She introduced herself as Emma. Emma asked me if I was visiting family in Clearwater. When I told her I was there by accident, she seemed surprised. She said most people who came to Clearwater were either returning home or looking for someone specific. I asked Emma about the town's history. She showed me to a section of local newspapers and historical documents. She said I was welcome to look through anything that interested me. I started reading recent newspaper issues from the past few years. Most of the stories were about typical small-town events, school graduations, community festivals, local business openings. But in a newspaper from 2 years ago, I found something that made my heart stop beating. There was a small article about a young woman who had arrived in Clearwater under mysterious circumstances. The article said she had been found walking along the main road with no memory of how she had gotten there. She had been suffering from amnesia caused by a head injury. The woman had been about 25 years old. She had dark hair and brown eyes. She had a small birthmark on her left wrist. The article said local residents had helped the woman recover. She had eventually remembered that her name was Sophie, but she could not remember her last name or where she had come from. Sophie had decided to stay in Clearwater. She had found work at the local bookstore and had become an active member of the community. The article included a photograph of Sophie working in the bookstore. I was looking at a picture of my sister Sofia. My hands started shaking as I stared at the newspaper. Sofia had been living in Clearwater for 2 years. She was alive and safe, but she did not remember her real identity. She did not remember me. I asked Emma if she knew Sophie from the bookstore. Emma's face lit up with recognition. She told me that Sophie was one of her closest friends. She said Sophie was kind, intelligent, and loved reading mystery novels. Emma asked me why I was interested in Sophie. I told her that Sophie was my twin sister who had disappeared 3 years ago. I explained that my family had been searching for her ever since. Emma stared at me in shock. She said the resemblance was incredible. She told me that Sophie sometimes had dreams about a sister, but she could never remember specific details when she woke up. Emma offered to take me to the bookstore immediately. We walked 3 blocks to a small shop called Pages and Memories. Through the front window, I could see a woman arranging books on a display table. She had her back turned to us, but I recognized her immediately. It was Sofia. Emma knocked on the door and called out to Sophie. When Sofia turned around and saw me through the window, her face went completely pale. She dropped the books she was holding and stood frozen for several seconds. Emma opened the door and introduced me as a visitor who was interested in meeting Sophie. She did not mention that I claimed to be Sophie's sister. She wanted Sophie to react naturally. Sofia stared at my face as if she was seeing a ghost. She asked me if we had met before. She said I looked exactly like someone from her dreams. I told Sofia that my name was Luci Martinez. I asked her if the name meant anything to her. Sofia touched her forehead and closed her eyes. She said the name felt familiar, but she could not place it. She asked me why I had come to Clearwater. I decided to be honest. I told Sofia that I believed she was my twin sister who had disappeared 3 years ago. I explained that our family had been searching for her ever since. Sofia sat down in a chair and stared at me for a long time. She asked me to tell her about our family and our childhood. I told Sofia about our parents, Maria and Carlos Martinez, who lived in Phoenix, Arizona. I described our childhood home and the games we used to play together. I told her about the matching birthmarks on our wrists and how people had always confused us. As I spoke, Sofia began to cry. She said some of my stories felt like distant memories that she could almost but not quite reach. Sofia showed me her left wrist. The birthmark was exactly where I remembered it. Emma suggested that we go to the local doctor who had treated Sofia when she first arrived in Clearwater. She thought he might be able to help Sofia recover more of her memories. Dr. Williams had been practicing medicine in Clearwater for 30 years. He remembered Sofia's case clearly because it had been so unusual. He told us that Sofia had arrived with a serious head injury that had caused selective amnesia. Dr. Williams examined old X-rays of Sofia's skull. He explained that her injury had been consistent with a car accident, but no accidents had been reported in the area around the time Sofia arrived. He asked Sofia if she remembered anything about the days before she came to Clearwater. Sofia said she sometimes had nightmares about being trapped in a dark place, but she had always assumed they were just bad dreams. Dr. Williams suggested that seeing familiar faces and hearing familiar stories might help Sofia's memory return gradually. He recommended that we spend time together sharing memories and looking at photographs. I called our parents that evening. When I told them I had found Sofia, they could not believe it. They cried with relief and joy. They said they would drive to Clearwater immediately. Sofia agreed to let our parents visit, but she was nervous about meeting people she could not remember. She asked me to help her prepare for their arrival. Over the next 3 days, Sofia and I spent hours together sharing stories and looking at family photographs on my phone. Slowly, some of Sofia's memories began to return. She remembered our childhood dog, Max. She remembered the way our mother sang lullabies in Spanish. She remembered our father teaching us to ride bicycles in the park behind our house. But Sofia still could not remember the circumstances of her disappearance. When our parents arrived in Clearwater, the reunion was emotional and overwhelming. Our mother held Sofia for a long time and cried. Our father kept saying her real name over and over, as if he was afraid she might disappear again. Sofia hugged our parents, but I could see that she was struggling to connect her recovered memories with the real people in front of her. That evening, our father made a confession that explained everything. He told us that 3 years ago, Sofia had discovered something dangerous about his business. Our father worked for a company that imported goods from South America. Sofia had found evidence that the company was involved in illegal activities. Sofia had confronted our father about what she had discovered. She had threatened to report the company to the authorities if he did not quit his job immediately. Our father had agreed to quit, but he had asked Sofia to keep quiet until he could find a way to leave safely. He had been afraid that the company would hurt our family if they knew Sofia had discovered their secrets. But someone at the company had found out about Sofia's knowledge. They had arranged for her to be kidnapped before she could go to the police. Our father had received a phone call telling him that Sofia was safe, but that she would be killed if he reported her disappearance or contacted the authorities. The kidnappers had told him that Sofia would be released unharmed if he continued to work for the company and kept quiet about their illegal activities. For 3 years, our father had been trapped. He had continued working for the company to protect Sofia's life. He had told our family that he was still searching for her, but he had actually known she was being held somewhere safe. Our father had never imagined that Sofia would be released with amnesia in a small town like Clearwater. Sofia listened to our father's explanation with growing anger and confusion. She could not understand why he had not tried to rescue her or contact the police. Our father explained that the company had convinced him Sofia would be killed if he tried to find her. They had shown him photographs of other people who had been murdered for interfering with their business. He had believed that keeping quiet was the only way to keep Sofia alive. Now that Sofia had been found, our father knew the company would eventually discover her location. He told us we needed to contact the FBI immediately to report the kidnapping and the company's illegal activities. Sofia was scared but determined to help expose the people who had stolen 3 years of her life. The next morning, FBI agents arrived in Clearwater. They interviewed Sofia, our parents, and me about everything we knew. They explained that they had been investigating our father's company for several months, but had not had enough evidence to make arrests. Sofia's testimony and our father's inside knowledge provided exactly what the FBI needed to shut down the company's operations. Within 2 weeks, 15 people were arrested on charges of kidnapping, drug trafficking, and money laundering. The FBI told us that Sofia's courage in speaking out had helped them stop a criminal organization that had been operating for over 10 years. Sofia decided to stay in Clearwater while she continued recovering her memories. She had built a life in the town and had friends who cared about her. She said she needed time to decide whether she wanted to return to Phoenix or start fresh somewhere else. I decided to stay in Clearwater temporarily to help Sofia adjust to her recovered identity. I found that I enjoyed the slower pace of life in the small town. For the first time in years, I was not constantly traveling. Emma offered me a part-time job helping to organize the library's local history collection. I accepted because it allowed me to stay close to Sofia while still doing research and writing work. Over the following months, Sofia's memories continued to return. She remembered more details about her childhood, her college years, and her life before the kidnapping. But she also developed new interests and relationships that were part of her identity as Sophie. Sofia decided that she wanted to keep both names. She legally changed her name to Sofia Sophie Martinez to honor both parts of her identity. Our parents visited Clearwater regularly. They apologized repeatedly for the choices they had made during Sofia's disappearance. They attended family therapy sessions to help all of us process the trauma we had experienced. Our father found a new job working for a non-profit organization that helped victims of human trafficking. He said he wanted to use his experience to help other families who were facing similar situations. I learned that sometimes the most important discoveries happen when we least expect them. I had thought I was simply catching a flight to Miami for a work assignment. Instead, I found my missing sister and helped solve a crime that had destroyed our family. Sofia and I now live in apartments near each other in Clearwater. We have dinner together twice a week and take long walks around the town. We are rebuilding our relationship while respecting the person Sofia became during her years as Sophie. I still work as a travel writer, but I focus on stories about people who have found unexpected connections and second chances. I write about the power of community and the importance of never giving up hope. Every time I travel now, I carry a picture of Sofia and me together in Clearwater. It reminds me that sometimes the most meaningful journeys are not the ones we plan, but the ones that happen when we take wrong turns and end up exactly where we need to be.
If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe to this channel. Leave a comment and tell me what you thought about Luci's incredible discovery. Your engagement helps other English learners find these videos and improve their skills together.